The main conference room at Town Hall. Members of the public are welcome to attend this in-person meeting. Please note that while an option for remote attendance and/or participation is being provided as a courtesy to the public, the meeting will not be suspended or terminated if technical problems interrupt the virtual broadcast, unless otherwise required by law. Members of the public with particular interest in any specific item should make plans for in-person versus virtual attendance accordingly. Now we'll do the introductions. Okay. All right, so we have Commissioner Bill Boyven.
Here.
Commissioner Indra Deb.
Here.
Commissioner Kent Moffitt. I thought he was coming today.
He's probably just a little late.
What?
He's probably just a little late.
Okay. He's absent for now, then. Commissioner Rob Sheehan.
Here.
Commissioner Ed Laturco.
Here.
Commissioner Sarah Walensky. She is absent tonight. And myself, Commissioner Larry Cohen, is present for the record. We also have with us Commissioner Lucy Hanson. Right?
Commissioner?
What?
Assistant Conservation.
Commissioner. Commissioner.
Oh,
raise?
assistant administrator. You're supposed
Give
to.
her a raise there to no salary at all.
You could save me by saying present.
I'm here.
Okay, and conservation administrator Eileen Coleman.
Present.
Okay. All right. All right. So first on the agenda is public comment. Is there someone here who would like to make a comment about something that's not on the official agenda, and we can give you a few minutes to do so? You do that by coming up to the microphone. You introduce yourself, you introduce where you live, and the floor is yours.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
My name is John Hickey. I think most of you know me after several other meetings, so thank you to the commissioners for hearing me. I think I'm being timed to have 4 minutes? Something like that?
Yeah, you have.
So what I think I would like to do is just state my concerns and then leave it to the commissioners to have future conversations, and maybe I'll get on to the next public agenda meeting.
Yeah, I mean, it's only because we have a full agenda.
Correct,
So
and I understand.
We don't insert a large.
Correct, so I understand you can't really respond, so I know it's not going to be a discussion. So I am here again, as you could probably imagine, around my concerns around the construction project on 12 Sarah Street. I do have some continuing concerns around the contract owner, Rashek Gull, not fulfilling the Conservation Commission's requirements. I think all of you are aware that the pool that was installed was contrary to the approved plans and had to be filled in and moved. I don't believe the excavator was even aware at first. Was probably just told this is where it's going, and then the whole thing was moved. A week and a half ago, the whole French drain that runs from Sarah Street right out to the beginning of the woods was completely covered up. That was put there temporarily. Oops, excuse me. That was put there temporarily until the tanks and proper French drains and other requirements are fulfilled, and in part to protect me as well. That was all completely covered up by the excavator because the excavator is looking to move the mountains of dirt and rocks out, and that's the only space he can come down. I asked him when I saw him, I told him my concerns, and maybe you could use a bobcat and not disturb the French drain, but everything was covered over. Tonight, before I came here with the downpour of rain, it's a complete lake. The two drains on the side of that monstrous house coming right at me, and it's completely a lake now. The only thing protecting me are those thatched barriers that run along the side, but it's all filled in. The French drain's completely gone, and that needs to be, I know we're not discussing this, but I'm asking the commission, Eileen Coleman, to come out to Sarah Street and get that restored until the tanks and French drains are properly put in. After I spoke to you briefly today, Mr. Cohen, I saw, it might have been Lucy, I'm not sure, that was out there speaking to Rashek, so you acted fast, thank you. But it needs to be done, because I'm not going to run the risk of a 5-inch rainstorm and have water all coming at me, because it's pouring right out. It's a disaster. So please address that with him as soon as possible. He's well aware of why that was there. The excavator doesn't seem to be aware. I was mentioning, there's a mountain of dirt and rock. The rocks are right on the edge of the wetland. There's a mountain now that's on top of me. It was on the other side before of the property, and that's coming out. But I was referencing, and I'm not an engineer, but the 121 level it's supposed to kind of come back down to. We talked about the pool, you and I, and how that might have to be terraced in the land we brought down, and he didn't seem to be aware of what exactly is going to happen, but didn't see how it could get back down to the 121 level. So again, I'm going to leave that to the commission to make sure that's fulfilled properly, that the contractor / owner does that properly. Lastly, my neighbor across the street, as I've mentioned to you, has some water issues in the woods. They've been the same issues for years on the corner of Myrna Street and Sarah. Nothing in comparison to the water we have in the wetlands behind our properties, and especially even more so now that Mr. Rashek illegally took all the trees out. Rashek Gold took all the trees out illegally. And the Conservation Commission gave permission or variance or whatnot to have a drain attached from the property to the stormwater system on the street. We requested that, and Mr. Keeley, I think that's how you pronounce his name, said that's not allowed. But I believe variances can be given at times, and considering that all the trees were taken down, the civil engineer, Mr. Dragani, stated that he didn't take into effect all those trees drinking hundreds of gallons of water. He didn't take that into effect when he did his plans for mitigation around stormwater tanks and overflow and French drains. So some of my neighbors were going to come tonight, but I just said, I'll just come because it's not for discussion. So I would like that to be discussed and considered for the next meeting as well. If it was done right across the street and approved by the Conservation Commission, we have a serious situation with wetlands and flooding in our backyards, and very likely, I'm hoping not, but I don't want that coming into my house as well. And it was approved. My neighbor sent me all the emails. Tom, which I have with me, but not for tonight, Tom Hayes, engineer, said on September 6th, the approval had to come from the Conservation Commission. On September 9th, Eileen Coleman gave permission for it to be hooked up in an email.
Dry well.
Huh?
To a dry well on his property.
No,
Yes.
no. I have exactly what the email says. I'm not going to get into it tonight.
Okay.
You said our preference is that it's a dry well, but I will give permission for it to be hooked up. I have it in the email.
Oh, you only have one email. It
I-
continued a lot.
I have the whole chain of emails, but it's not for discussion, as I know, tonight. And it's in. He's hooked up to the street. And our situation on our end is much more serious. So anyways, lastly, I think that this project, as I said, to quote Maya Angelou, somebody shows you who they are the first time, believe them. I'm asking that this project is more carefully monitored. I feel badly that I have to keep reaching out about different things, and I know Eileen has been good about coming, but it's like me constantly having to call and say, pool's not in the right place, this isn't being done right, the trees were taken down. This is a project and a contractor that's not following the rules, is thumbing his nose at everybody on this commission. Case in point, we went through everything a couple months ago, and then he puts the pool right on the edge of the wetlands. He doesn't care. So I'm asking you to take into consideration what I'm asking, restore the French drain, get the level down to 121, before he take occupancy. And then also we need to discuss the variance because of stormwater overflow. There's no more 100-year storms. We get 4 or 5 inches in a whack and those tanks fill up. And there could be some sort of a storm overflow drain that connects to the storm drainage system in the street. So I would ask you to look at that, to discuss it. I will put in to come back to a next meeting where we can actually discuss it in more depth. And then lastly, I don't know, can the Conservation Commission report to the License Authority for Contractors that this particular contractor is not supervising things properly? I mean, it's unique that he's the contractor and the owner. But as far as I can see, things are constantly being violated. And, I'm leaving food for thought that maybe he should be reported at this point because he doesn't follow the rules.
Reported to who?
to the state's licensing authority for contractors. We have a contractor that's continually breaking the law and doesn't care unless he's caught and called out on it. And if you want, I'll be happy to put together the list of violations, from trees to pools. I want that French drain restored as soon as possible to protect my property.
Okay, I think we understand now. Could you just clarify one thing? One of the items you mentioned is about connecting to the stormwater system. As far as what happened across the street, it either is or is it not, okay? And that can be checked and verified.
It is not.
It is.
It is. It's completed. He told me how much it cost. It's been completed. It was approved. I will print all the emails between Eileen Coleman
Wow.
and Tom Hayes, or whatever his name, the engineer's name, and I'll bring him to the next meeting.
All right, well,
I don't wanna take-
I would suggest you submit it to the office instead, not bring it to the meeting.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Yes, I'll submit it to the office. That way you won't-
But the question I have is, what are you seeking regarding connecting to the storm drain for 12 Sarah? Are you suggesting that you would like to see the overflow connected to the storm drain?
Yes, so what I'm thinking is we have a tank in the front, there's going to be a tank in the back and some
And then there's
drains.
an overflow with a pipe that goes to the back.
Right, and instead of directing, and we came before and brought this up several times, and John told us can't be done, but everything's being kind of like funneled out toward the back where we have wetlands that are pretty extensive, that it's the water level, as John told me when he was out there with me and Eileen, is 0, and it's, the other houses below me have pumps. We now have the additional fact of trees all taken out that were soaking up hundreds of gallons, so an additional pipe for overflow. I don't know all the terminology, but an additional pipe for the storm overflow that could be connected to the system in the street, like that was just done at 2 Sarah Street, would be very helpful. Anything and everything that can be helpful, because those tanks in his yard, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we were told they would hold up to like 4 inches of rain with no problem. We're getting storms. I was on the Cape last week and they had 8 inches of rain. So where's that all going beyond hopefully funneling out to the woods, which is just deferring it out to the wetlands and other people's properties?
Okay.
And I also would like to note, before I leave, there was a stormwater permit that was supposed to be, and something with a hearing, and Mr. Gall was supposed to serve his abutters, including me. We were never served anything about that. And then it was recorded in all the paperwork that I looked at that it was served, and then permission was given to move forward with the beginning of the construction. And this, we weren't aware as neighbors of anything that went on around stormwater permitting. That was never brought to our attention, and it was all...
Because they were, at the time, they were staying out of the buffer zone, and it was not considered to be a likely difficult issue. And then what happened is everything changed. They took down the trees, they were putting soil a lot closer to the wetlands, and the whole thing changed, and they stopped the project, as I understand it. Correct me if I'm wrong. They stopped the project and said, you now need to file, okay? Before it was request for determination, and now, then it became a notice of intent. Is that correct?
Right.
It was originally a request for determination of applicability for the trees that he did take down initially, and the house was going to be outside the buffer zone based on the original wetland delineation. But when we went out, we discovered, we thought the wetland was a lot closer. We had it redelineated, and it was closer, so you required a notice of intent.
Right.
which-
That's how I
which
remember.
did get.
Right, and at that...
As soon as it was all brought to our attention,
Right.
it was on our radar screen, but it
Right.
wasn't an issue of concern the way it was represented.
Right, but I do remember where he illegally took down all those trees, and then to add insult to injury, the wetland markers were actually moved, they were moved closer to the property line. You then asked, was the foundation put in yet? And it was already in. So it was kind of like all systems a go. It was kind of like at this point, it's let's mitigate and fix what we can. But
Right.
there's been a lot of problems from the get-go. So I am asking you to look into a variance to help myself and my neighbors with overflow. It was just completed. It has been installed on 2 Sarah Street with the approval of the Conservation
Well,
Commission.
first of all, we will clarify whether what happened across the street for you. I think Eileen believes she is clear, okay? And we will clarify it so that everybody's working with a common set of facts.
Yeah,
Okay? That's the first thing. The second thing is that the reason why, and I told you this over the phone, but I'm stating it for the record.
Right.
I'm not lecturing to you, because I've already said this to you over the phone, is the reason why it is not allowed to connect to the, water from your property to the stormwater system is that ends up in a low-lying area in someone else's property, and someone else is going to get flooded, okay? And so, that practice is a very poor practice, because it sticks it with, it takes the problem of excess water and sticks it to your neighbor around the corner who you don't see.
I completely remember that conversation.
Right.
But it was completed. I will send all the emails to you. It was completed and approved, and it's been, and it's done. It's attached.
Okay, that's fine. We'll sort it out. It's either one way or the other. I know you believe it that way, and she believes it the other way because she was involved with the permitting. So,
Yeah, I won't take the time to read the emails, but it's all here. I will print them out, so.
That would be very-
And I spoke to him this evening, the owner of that property. He told me how much it cost, when it was done, it was approved. Tom Hayes deferred to Eileen. Eileen said, we prefer drywall, but I will give you permission to do it. It's all in the emails. It's all hooked up. I'm asking for a variance considering the situation and the mess that's been created.
The other thing is, I'm not sure it's warranted, because my understanding from the engineer is that this design was over-designed for excess water. In other words, more so than what is normally required. So, I don't understand why, other than concern. I understand concern, that's different. But I don't understand why you think that the system won't handle what's being designed.
In part because all those trees are removed, and that's creating even more water out there, and we're sending all the water out back. That's number one. Number two, he told us all point blank that he didn't take any of that into consideration when he made his plans. So that's two right there.
Yeah, well, first of all, the design calculations do not account for the lack of water intake, okay, when you take down a tree. We've covered this before in the previous hearing. It's very unfortunate, okay, that he did that. Everyone can agree to that.
Right.
And however, I think the engineer did a number of things to provide so that, to help mitigate by oversizing the tanks for rainfall.
I agree.
So I'm not convinced that there's going to be any substantial overflow from those tanks.
Yeah, again, hearing 100-year storms and the amount of rain we're getting, you never say never. And like I said, all that is being pushed to the back with the wetlands are at ground zero to begin with.
Now, having said that, I do understand your concern. I'm not trying to minimize it at all.
Yeah, and I think my biggest concern, and I would respectfully ask one last time for you and or Eileen or somebody to also go out there and get that French drain restored until the proper drains and tanks are in, because tonight I have a lake on the side of my property with water all gushing. There's nothing to protect it.
And that was the original intent, that
Right.
the stuff is functioning until everything is connected, right?
Right.
Now, Eileen, this is so, I realize it's public comment time, but I've done a lot of talking because it just sort of flew out of me. Eileen, do you want to say anything?
No, I'm just checking with Tom Hayes to see if I misunderstood what happened in the end. My understanding with that storm drain at Myrna was that they were going to do a dry well, and that I said all along that was my preference, and that was my understanding as to what they were actually doing. I'll double check it. I'll see what actually happened. As to the rest, Lucy was there today. She did check. No grading is occurring right now. Not much seems to have happened since last week.
And I have been going out to 12 Sarah on a weekly basis.
Right.
Since I started this position.
Who's been going out on a weekly basis?
I have.
Okay.
On a near weekly basis, if not once a week, once every 2 weeks, but more than I've been to any other site. So I've got my eye on it.
Good, and I appreciate that. I just want to see it restored as soon as possible. And to that point, the excavator, it's been over a week. It's like one full day of work. They came for like 1 hour over the last week and took with the Bobcat or the excavator, whatever the bigger one's called, and they took a bunch of stones, brought them along the side, deposited them into a truck, took off the truck. They made a couple runs for 1 hour. All that dirt and rocks could have been gone in one full day. I'm assuming the excavator has other jobs going on, but that's sitting all covered up. It's been over a week. If we get a 5-inch rainstorm next week, at a certain point, I'm watching the lake building up in my yard right now. That temporary French drain needs to be restored. that contractor should have, Mr. Gull should have said, bring in a smaller Bobcat and go buy it. Don't just cover the whole thing up and create a dirt road, because he's destroyed any barrier. That's why it was put there.
Yeah, Mr. Hickey, I think, I understand, I think the commission understands. Is there anybody on the commission that would like to say anything in addition to what's has been said? Is there anybody? I mean, you're welcome to do that. I sort of
Yeah.
took license and gave you 5 months.
No, I appreciate that. I hope you can appreciate, as I said, my 62 years in the town, and to have this put upon me now is, the threat of what's going on here. I don't care about the house itself, but it's just like what has been allowed to happen. And I know some of that's going to require some bylaw modifications. I'm working on that with the Board of Selectmen and the Planning Board. But on September 9th, in closing, it just says, Steve, your original idea of installing a driver would be preferable. This is Eileen. However, I looked at the system before, and the Conservation Commission is amenable to connecting to the storm drain system in that location if you wish to do so. That's the email she sent him, and it's now been installed. It cost him $4,000. Thank you.
Okay, all right. Have a good evening. Thank you. I didn't give you a chance.
No, I didn't really need to.
Okay, all right. Okay, all right, next, we have no minutes to approve. We have a request for certificate of compliance, 12 Partridge Lane, Town of Burlington Engineering Department, DEP file number 122-677. Hi there.
Hello, I'm Megan Cavalier. I'm the Assistant Town Engineer.
We have met you before.
Yes, you have multiple times.
All right, well, welcome. Okay, so would you like to say anything about the status of the project?
So the project is complete. All of the force main has been installed. All of the final paving that will be done by that contractor has been completed. And then today they came and took out the rest of the hay bales and reseeded the area that was under the hay bales. Everything has been completed to our standard. We have now released all of the rest of the retainage, so this is kind of the last step of the project.
Requesting the certificate.
Yes.
All right. Eileen or Lucy, you want to give us a rundown?
Well, we don't have any issues with this, with issuing the COC for this permit, this project. So just to remind you, they were doing some work on the pump station at 12 Partridge Lane and work on the sewer line as
Yes.
well. Everything went just fine. I was out of the area a few times. At one point, last summer, I guess it was completely underwater. That had absolutely nothing to do with them. It's just a very wet area. Everything seems to have come up pretty well. As Megan said, they just, due to some miscommunication, they didn't remove the dewatering bag and erosion controls until just now, but I think they're going to come in just fine. The area under the dewatering bag, which was right beside the pump station itself. So there's a bare patch there, and it's now loamed and seeded, or at least maybe raked and seeded, I assume. They probably didn't put loam.
I think that they just raked and seeded. I don't think they brought in any new material, just there was a lot over there already.
They probably didn't need to, and then just
Yeah.
sprinkled it with some of the straw from the bales just to keep everything in place, which is probably just as well with this rain.
Yes.
The seeds might still be there, maybe not. And everything else that was around it had come up beautifully. I have no issues with this at all.
Okay.
I will say that Partridge Lane is scheduled to be paved, so when we go and pave a road, we also loam and seed ourselves. So I believe that it is on the schedule for 2025. So if the seeding doesn't come up here, we can address it next year with a town project.
That's true. Will that'll come in front of us in some manner, right? Because it's wetland and floodplain and...
But we don't touch any, we just stay in the roadway. It's just loam and seeding is part of every project, because if they destroy any of the
I just kind of
loam.
want to make sure that you guys use some wetland mix or something that isn't just grass.
Just talk to me about this, like send me an email and we can just put it in the contract that for wetland areas, that's not a problem for them to use a different type of seed. What seeding we spec is Mass DOT's spec for seeding. So that's always what we go by. If you want us doing something else, just send me an email and we can address that.
All right. Okay.
Yep.
So is there anyone on the commission that has a comment about the pumping station on Partridge Lane?
No.
No? Oh, for the record, Kent Moffett has appeared. He should be noted as present in the minutes. Okay. You appeared a while ago. Okay, could I have a motion to approve the certificate of compliance for the pumping station project to the Town of Burlington Engineering Department located at 12 Partridge Lane, DEP file number 122-677. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Okay, all those in favor? 600. You're all set?
Great. We will probably be back soon. We have many more pump stations to do.
We look forward to your pump station.
I'm sure the town does too.
All right, thanks.
Thank you.
All right. Next is a request for certificate of completion for 25 Network Drive. The Nordblum Company is requesting it. It's a stormwater permit. It was issued as an erosion and sedimentation control permit before we renamed this permit. And is there anyone online? There is. Mr. White?
Hello, can everybody hear me okay?
We can, thank you. Please introduce yourself.
Great.
And,
Sure. Joe White, civil engineer from BSC Group, representing Nordblum Company on this. I don't know if everyone has gotten a chance to drive by the site at all, but this is 25 Blue Sky Drive, which was formerly Network Drive. It's the newest building on the Blue Sky campus out there. And a certificate of occupancy was granted in the spring for this project, for the core and shell portion of the building, but the landscaping wasn't complete at that time. So since then, there's been ongoing landscaping and seeding, and I've been in touch with Eileen, and we've been doing weekly inspections out there for years now. But I'm providing reports to Eileen's office, and we're at a point now where we think that there's two small areas that are clouded in red there on the screen that it's being shared that still need to be finished up. Should be done in the next week, but projects, probably 95 to 98% of the way finalized and landscaping installed, grass coming in, all those things. And we did also provide a letter to Eileen. There was a full-time, landscape architect associated with this project, and they were on site when all plantings went in and trees were installed. So just certifying that everything was installed as designed, and all those plantings are warranted for a full year. So if anything doesn't make it, through the first year, all needs to be replaced by the landscape contractor. So I don't think it's technically a certificate of compliance for a stormwater permit, but we are requesting, certificate of completion or whatever the terminology is for what's granted for this.
all right, thank you.
Sure.
Eileen or Lucy, you want to comment on the project? From your perspective?
I like to call it a certificate of completion just to distinguish it from the wetland permitting. We said that the last time. So, yeah, just to make it clear, I think Joe already said it, this was a stormwater permit for the construction of the big new buildings that are being used for lab space at 25 and 27 Blue Sky Drive. It involved quite a lot of grading, a huge amount of landscaping. So when they initially submitted back in June or July, I don't remember, they hadn't had a chance to get to the landscaping yet, so we postponed it and we continued it a few times. Now, as Joe said, not completely 100% finished, but at this point, what they have left is just a small number of trees. It was dozens and dozens and dozens before. They put in a lot of trees, a lot of landscaping, and they just have a couple of corners where they haven't yet finalized that work. But I just, at this point, wanted to kind of be honest, have it off the agenda, and it really is. It's solidly almost there, and I have every confidence that they will grade it exactly as they said they would do. So if you're open to it, I would suggest or request that you allow them to issue their final as-built plans, which might be a month or so. We can just check with Joe, just to go through the office. And if we have any concerns, we'll raise it up with you at that time. But I don't anticipate that there will be any issues.
All right, let's see if any of the commissioners have any questions.
Before you do that, can I also just say, there was an operation and maintenance plan, a substantial one that they were initially we had initially asked them to record at the registry of deeds, but it's kind of tricky to record an O&M plan, well, so I'm told, for something that isn't really built yet. So they would like to now record it with the certificate of compliance.
They
with
can
the deed.
record it with the certificate.
Apparently, it seems easier, and it makes sense, that's fine by me.
Okay.
So I had just approved it, and I put that into the actual COC, just so the wording is in there, and it's memorialized, and I think there was something else, but now I forgot.
Okay,
And one more thing.
let's go around the room here. Ed, do you have any comments on this one?
Nothing to add, just what Eileen noted, more trees, I guess, are coming too.
Okay, Rob. Kent. Indra. Bill.
Just one question on the two areas that have yet to be completely landscaped. They both seem to be steep basins of some sort. Were they meant to be a water treatment feature, a retention pond, or anything like that?
I don't believe so.
No, they're actually graded up, so they're small mounds. They're small
Oh, they're
hills,
raising,
if you
okay.
will. They're raising. Yep. One of them is just the smaller one is next to the switch gear, the electrical equipment for the building. So that was kind of left until last, until some things were finished up there. And the one to the right is basically just being regraded for landscaping purposes. But they're both being raised, neither are being lowered. And we're expecting to be done within the next week to 10 days. They're actively working on it right now. So
Okay, I couldn't see the actual gradient.
yeah, it's tough to see. It's not a great scale to be able to read the contours on there.
I jumped to a
It
conclusion.
would have been nice maybe to have some above-ground bioretention features on site, but they don't. Everything's going underground, but it ultimately does connect to existing, correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, on this, please. There's a couple of very large detention ponds, or large-ish detention ponds on site that it ultimately drains to those, right?
That's correct. As part of this project, only subsurface detention was put in because there's a lot of ledge on site. So there's no actual infiltration as part of this project. Everything's being detained and then draining to the infiltration ponds, which are surface ponds between Middlesex Turnpike and the property there, kind of plan south.
And there is some contamination underneath that site in parts of it. Maybe not right under this building, but in parts. So everybody did have to sort of take that into account. And there was one more thing about the stormwater that I did just remember just there. Ask somebody else the question.
Okay, all right.
Oh, I know what it was. I'm sorry.
You're messing with me,
I
Eileen.
know, I'm so sorry. I just keep forgetting the bits. I should have written them all down. When you approved this project, one of the stipulations was that they analyzed those basins to make sure they still had plenty of capacity and that they were basically working as expected. And they did do that. This whole project, as he says, it's been a few years now in the build. We did get those analyses done a couple of years ago, so we know the detention basins are
Adequate.
still have substantial volume and appear to be functioning.
Okay. All right, I have a couple of points to bring up on this one. The first is a question. Were the catch basins cleaned out from the construction?
Not yet. The silt sacks are still in there. We haven't had those removed yet. So once we give them the okay to pull those silt sacks, they will all be vacked out when that happens.
All right.
There have been a couple that have been vacked out over the course of the project, but we haven't started pulling the silt sacks from the catch basins yet.
So will we get a letter documenting completion of that task?
We can provide that. I think as part of that infiltration pond analysis that Eileen was just referring to, we submitted records of them being vacked out. So I think they're all vacked out on campus at least twice a year. But we can provide the records for that. They're vacked out once those sacks are pulled.
Right. From what I can tell, they actually look pretty good. I took a look, actually, so.
Yeah, we've also been doing weekly SWIP inspections, so we've been keeping a very close eye on all those catch basins, on a weekly basis, so.
All right, the second and last point I have is, I want to talk about one area in particular. Let me go this one, and let me go with this one. And then let's switch directions. All right. There's an area that has substantial amount of soil, and it is, I'm showing a picture, I guess you can't see the picture because it's a piece of paper. But the area is,
Is
it's,
it one of these ones?
it's,
Right, yeah, the right, Carol.
it may be the one on the right.
Yeah.
But here's the situation. You have granite curbing going all the way around, and the soil is graded to the top of the granite curbing. A major rainstorm, until it is stabilized, I think is going to cause a problem with more stuff rolling into the parking lot and so forth. The fix, in my opinion, requires about 1 to 2 hours work, which is the granite curbing is a very good catch for that stuff, okay? But the way it is graded temporarily right now, it is graded to the top and it's not stabilized. So I think in a heavy rainstorm, it's likely to all rush off. So with 1 to 2 hours of work to create like a little gully, if you know what I mean, on the inside of the curb, would catch it and would solve the problem. I mean, it's probably like 2 hours work for a guy to go out there and protect it that way. I don't know if that's the best way of doing it, but that would be my idea. Joe, do you have any comment on this?
Is there any way you can describe the area specifically, so I have an idea of where you're talking about?
Well, if the camera could zoom, actually, yeah.
Joe, can you see the screen?
I can, yep.
Is it the one on the side that Lucy was talking about, or that Lucy was pointing out?
It's the,
The right hand, that one, that one.
Is it that?
That one.
Oh,
Just at the.
it's this one.
when did you
Right
take
back
these?
in the
I
back?
took it today,
Really?
Is that not still,
or yesterday.
it's in the
Okay,
back corner here.
this
It
is,
says-
I think it's there, right.
Okay,
Yeah,
it's that one.
yeah.
Do you see that one?
okay, yeah, I can see it, right by the corner of the back corner of the building there.
I mean,
where the light
essentially,
pole
there's
is.
no vegetation, the dirt's just gonna roll up, we have a heavy rain, frankly, it's gonna be a mess, I
And it's
think.
sloped to the street, too.
And it's,
Yep,
and
I
it's,
can-
and it's flush, and it's sloped and flushed with the top of the curb.
Okay, I can reach out to the landscape contractor first thing tomorrow and have them remedy that. I believe I don't want to say I'm 100% sure. I believe it was seeded. It might not be growing in yet.
I don't
But yeah,
think it's
I can-
seeded. That doesn't look
Okay.
like it's seeded, to be honest with you.
Okay. Yep, I can certainly reach out to them and just have them create like a little swale on the back edge of the curb if that's kind of what you're describing. I think.
Right, and
makes
then they
sense.
can,
A little
once it's
depression there.
all started to be vegetated, they could restore it, and then
Yep.
things would be fine.
Yep.
Eileen, do you comment on that one?
That's a perfectly good option. Otherwise, even lower, even an easier thing is if it's been seeded, just sprinkle some straw or rye or something over it, just to keep it in place, if it's been
Yep,
seeded.
something to keep it down.
But
And also as a backup, we do still have, oh, yeah, go ahead, sorry.
Oh, I was just saying that since this area is still under construction, definitely do still have silt sacks in the
Yeah, I know, I saw them. That's fine.
Yep, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. That's obviously kind of a backup catch-all, if you will, the silt sacks. So I can reach out to the landscaper in the morning and see if they can create a temporary fix there.
I mean,
until the grass gets going.
however you decide to do it, Joe, I just thought it was a mess waiting to happen.
Okay, yep, thank you for that.
Sure. Anyone else want to comment on this subject at all?
Yeah, you're around the perimeter.
All right, so would anyone in the commission like to comment on issuing the certificate of completion? It's 99.9%, everything's done, except for this one area I mentioned that they can fix pretty easily, I think.
Are you saying doing like silt sacks around like the top of the concrete? Like this is,
No,
Around the-
they're,
around
the silt sacks are on top of the catch basins.
no, Joe's suggestion was, I think, a mini swale just right behind
Oh, okay.
the curb.
yep,
Or even if it has been seeded, as long as they even just cover it in some manner,
yeah.
just to keep it down on.
Not
in a
concrete,
heavy rain.
curbing it.
not concrete, it was the curbing.
It's granite.
Or granite, yeah, sorry.
Right, no, I think he just meant just to give it a little something to keep it in
Okay.
place.
So,
It's been easy so far because it hasn't rained in 28 days before today, so.
Right?
all right, so here's the question. Ed or Rob, you have any opinion on whether you want to proceed with a certificate of completion?
Yeah, I think
I think it's okay to go.
Okay, and then we'll.
All right, Kent and Indra, any comment?
So what is your suggestion? What is your suggestions? What you?
Oh, that, I think at this point, it's okay to just go ahead and issue the certificate of completion. We'll still keep an eye on it. Joe is giving us, he was doing weekly inspection reports until now. I've had hundreds from him. And he's proposing to just drop it to every 2 weeks because it's almost there. And he'll just send me the as-built final when it is final, and I'll pass that on to you, but I'm okay with you issuing the COC. That's my suggestion.
And I doubt they're not gonna wanna take care of it. I mean, if you have a new building, you're gonna want like, you know,
Yes.
vegetation
Oh,
elements in
absolutely.
their own best.
That's exactly what I think. It's
Yeah.
very
I don't have any
visual.
problem.
Yeah.
All right, Bill?
And I have no problems issuing. They're obviously have a solution in hand, and they've been very responsive to any other requests we've had, so I have no problems with them.
All right, therefore, could I have a motion to issue the certificate of completion for the project at 25 Blue Sky Drive in Burlington?
So moved.
Second. All in favor? 600. Joe, you're all set on this one.
Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
You too, thank you, have a good evening.
I know it's a bit late to tell you this, but there was a bit of a snafu on the bond. They accidentally didn't pay the bond back in the day, so we don't have to return it. So you didn't have to vote on that, so that was good.
Okay.
Think you saved us some
But it was
time,
okay.
Larry.
It's all okay.
Well, I wouldn't have voted for it then. Okay. All right, well, it is true what Bill said. It seems like they've been very responsive.
And it's kind of, like, it's a very visible, kind of a flagship site as well for Vericel and Broad, and half the town is looking at it. Well, I mean, like, not the town, the residents, but it's a high-profile site. They'll want it perfect.
It certainly is.
I don't expect it, it'll be perfect.
Right,
The owners and the town want to advertise it highly.
Right.
right. All right, so the next we have a continued public hearing for 5 Fowler Terrace. And is there anyone here for that at all?
Yes, this is Dan Milano, the homeowner. Can you hear me?
Yes, Dan. Yes, Dan. How are you tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
Good, good. As I remember, Eileen, there was nothing more that we were asking for?
That is correct. You were very satisfied with the proposal and the plan that they had come up with and the description that his engineer provided in writing it at the time, right?
It was super thorough. Like, no
nope,
questions.
you were
So the
not.
commission was very satisfied. So
Commission was
tonight's job to see if they're still very
They
satisfied.
gave us a little bit more. Dan, I had just asked Dan some questions about flagstones themselves, but
We're set, good.
Yep.
All right. Okay, on the right from the commission, anybody have anything further?
I did watch the.
You did, great. How about on the left? Anyone have anything further on this one?
No comments.
I thought it was in good shape, I think, myself, so. All right, so now we have a set of draft
I'll just share it.
findings and draft administrative conditions. Has the owner gotten a copy of this?
He did, and I answered some questions for him today that he had about them, so I hope that's okay with you, Dan, and, but feel free to follow up with me next week if you have any more questions, okay?
Yeah, sounds good. I think the only edit I see there on the screen was the displacement for the net volume, but everything else I think is okay.
Which I have, you'll see it in just a minute, hopefully. Let me make this bigger.
Okay. Yeah, I can see it. Yep.
A notice of intent was filed for the construction of a 20 by 26-foot patio and a fence within bordering land subject to flooding within riverfront area of a locally regulated stream and the buffer to bordering vegetated wetland. The project also included removing an existing small concrete pad, about 121 square feet, at the same location, and a stair step, about 4.5 square feet. Impervious surfaces would be increased by approximately 431 square feet. That was just highlighted because I was confirming that number, but I think that was correct. I'm just going to unhighlight it, unless anybody notices that I was wrong.
Yeah, I can double check the email. I know I did send the dimensions of both to you.
Sounds like what you said, right? And then compensatory storage, on the version I sent to everybody, including Dan, I got this part wrong because I misread the plan. Compensatory storage will be provided such that a net volume of 9.43 cubic feet will be provided, meaning they're providing a little bit more storage than is actually there, a tiny bit more. The work was in BLSF, a riverfront area, the 100-foot buffer to bordering vegetated wetlands. We referenced both the site plan and the updated narrative since he had some additional information on it. The Commission is finding that the elevations with respect to BLSF elevations are accurate. The Commission does not formally approve the riverfront area or BVW resource areas as they are, well, the riverfront is off-site, I might tweak that. They simply were not delineated for this project, so I'll just say something else there. The Commission finds this project is exempt from the Mass Stormwater Bylaw regulations as it's an accessory project to a single-family home. The new patio will be surrounded by and will run off to grass. It will be laid on layers of gravel and sand, and the material in the joints will allow some water to percolate between the pavers. In addition, then the erosion and sediment controls will be implemented during construction, minimizing any impact to the resource areas. This permit may serve as a permit under the Stormwater Bylaw, and we are proposing, well, one thing is we're just asking for 9-inch straw wattles since it's a relatively small impact project, and I'm proposing a $1,000 bond, since again, it's a pretty small scale project. And then if we switch to the order, again, we're referencing the same plans and the update, and everybody has seen this now, and well, the Commission has seen these about several thousand times, but Dan saw it earlier, so I'm just going to zip through them. That we're saying again, the order permits work in the riverfront area within buffer zone bordering vegetated wetland and BLSF. No work within any other resource area has been permitted. Just scrolling down, the pre-construction conditions, which we did kind of go over with Dan. He's going to let us know when he has filed the order with the Registry of Deeds. He's got to pay a performance bond, install the erosion controls, then he will call us out to look at all of these things that are listed under pre-construction conditions, including a DEP file number. We're asking for 9-inch straw wattles around the limit of work. Materials shall not be stockpiled on the site within the bordering lands subject to flooding or within 50 feet of the wetlands or the stream, or in a location that could allow materials to run into the street. So just pick somewhere else, Dan. No dewatering on this site in conjunction with these conditions unless we have received and approved a dewatering plan. Keep the street clean. That probably won't be an issue for you since most of the work is in the back. And we reserve the right to require additional erosion control. No additional grading beyond what's shown on the plan will be permitted without coming back to the Commission. Any debris that falls into the wetlands or stream shall be immediately removed. Do not dump anything into the stream or the wetlands, and this condition is noted, shall be noted on the COC as existing in perpetuity. The rest of the pollution control ones are standard about just notifying if there's a spill and more. Then no pesticides, herbicides, or fungicides shall be used within 100 feet of the wetlands as shown on the plans. I'm going to change that. 100 feet of wetlands, because we didn't really say where the wetland was on the plans, unless otherwise approved by the Conservation Commission, and that will remain on the certificate of compliance as existing in perpetuity. And the last condition is just describing how you would go about getting your certificate of compliance.
All right, Dan, did you have any questions at this point? But you can always ask, you know, after the fact, but do you have any questions?
No additional questions. I did just check the numbers on the square footage, Eileen, and I can send the email just to, I don't know how important it is that they're exactly right. It was 146 for the concrete pad to be removed.
Did it all come up to was the net 431?
I have 389. Again, I
Okay, I'm going to re-highlight
call
it.
approximate, yeah.
Okay? If it was 379, then I'll change it.
All right, that's
Okay.
all right. Any questions on what you heard from the commission? Could I have a motion to close the hearing on DEP file number 122-709?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. Could I have a motion to approve the findings under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-709?
So moved.
Second? Good. All in favor? Same vote, 600. Could I have a motion to approve the order of conditions under both State Wetlands Protection Act and Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-709?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote. Could I have a motion to require the posting of performance surety in the amount of $1,000 under Burlington Bylaw Article 14 for DEP file number 122-709?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? Same vote, 600. All right, Dan, you're all set. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
All right, you have a good evening. Good luck with the project.
You too. Thank you very much.
Thanks, bye.
Oh, yeah, and good luck with the baby. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Oh, do you remember when we were there, his wife was just about to give birth?
Yeah,
That happened,
so it did happen.
yes.
Oh, fantastic. Congratulations. Very nice. All right. Nice occasion. All right. All right. Okay, now we have a public hearing. Notice is given, the Town of Burlington Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing during which time we will consider and take public comment on proposed updates to the Burlington Stormwater and Erosion and Sedimentation Control Bylaw, which is Article 14, Section 6 of Burlington General Bylaws. A draft is available for anyone to look at the commission's website, and you can look at all the application materials. All right. So what I would like to do on this one is explain some of the backstory on what's going on. And then we can go, for any details, we can go to the commission and to Eileen and Lucy for, get into some of the details if it's necessary. Okay, so we have, here is the last thing to sign. Okay. All right. So we have, currently we have an 18-page stormwater, we'll call it just the stormwater bylaw for short, an 18-page stormwater bylaw. The reason it is so long is because not only do we put in the authorization for a permit program to regulate stormwater under the MS4 program and our bylaw, create a bylaw, is we also have the details in the general bylaw. And this is different than how our bylaw is organized in other parts. For example, our wetlands bylaw, okay, our wetlands bylaw has maybe a 7 or 8 page bylaw, and then we have numerous pages of regulations where all the details are in. And the question you may ask is, why do they do it that way? That's because towns don't want to go back to town meeting when they want to change the rainfall amount to use the latest data, okay? And there's a host of other things. Before I get into some of the things that additional reasons for doing this is, I will tell you that Reading has a bylaw, and they have regulations. Bedford has a bylaw and 23 pages of regulations. Wilmington has a bylaw and regulations. Lexington, for example, has 4.5-page bylaw and 36 pages of regulations. I think the majority of cities and towns do it that way. They don't put it where you have to go back to the legislative body particularly for technical changes with the details. So I would suggest to you that what we're doing is what all the other towns around, and most towns do. For example, I mentioned if we wanted to change the rainfall amount, as we recently did, to reflect the fact that we're having increasing amounts of rain and stormwater systems have to be designed for the right amount of water, you have to change it. We have something that we did considering the homeowner in mind. Most homeowner projects use an abbreviated stormwater permit. They don't have to come to the commission. We set it up so they don't have to come to the commission for a public hearing and do all those things you have to do and sit through a series of hearings for a homeowner project, unless it goes beyond a certain threshold, okay, which is a very, very, very large site. So it occurs to me that we have what we can expect in erosion and sedimentation control plan that must be submitted. It occurs to me that we have details of what's in a full permit stormwater plan. But I think, for example, we're less than clear as what is it we should be expecting to issue. I found it less than clear for an abbreviated permit. We just didn't specify it, and a homeowner will look at this and say, oh my God, I have to do all this? I mean, we should be clear that, no, I don't think we're expecting them to have everything that a full permit would necessarily, okay? And we could do this a lot easier by making that clear. I mean, I think one of the things that if we decide we need to change the protection on critical areas, let's think for a moment about vernal pools. We may want to put in what is necessary to protect, to have good quality water only going into a vernal pool. I don't know that anything is needed, but we don't specify anything much about it. What should we be doing with respect to, we've had issues around town with rain gardens not draining. So should there be some minimum specification so that they work? I mean, all of these things are very technical details, and it's very cumbersome to go back to town meeting. Now, I'll be honest, is, of course, we would have for regulations, we would have a hearing, and the commissioners would comment, and Eileen and Lucy would comment on all these things, and we invite the stakeholders. We will do what we always do. We would reach out to our stakeholders, okay? In the business community, we have history of actually reaching out to them and saying, hey, we put this on the agenda. Would you like to take a look at it for us? It might affect you, okay? And we have done that.
And they have.
And they have. They've come in with comments, and we have tried to be fair about it, and there've been good comments, and we've made changes because of it.
Exactly.
We've had builders come in, okay, and the same thing. We have talked about trying to preserve trees on the sideline, for example. Well, we got input that it's not really practical when people are building out to the 15-foot zoning setback, that the tree roots actually go out quite a bit, and it may generally be not easy to save a tree that way, and so requiring something that's not pragmatic obviously didn't make sense, so we didn't require that. So there's a lot of reasons why we are doing this. Another area is most of the projects in town are not new development, they're redevelopment. And so the question occurs, like, is there anything different about the redevelopment projects that we should be saying in a set of regulations? I don't know if that's the case. I'm not saying, I don't have anything in mind at all. But I just noticed that we don't have a lot of vacant land. We don't have a lot of brand-new projects on a vacant lot. It's just not the way the town is anymore. So should we be doing something? I don't know. We can think about it, but I don't have anything in mind at all at this point. So what we have, should we have, for example, we always ask, if we remember, we ask for driveways, like with house projects, we ask for some indication on the plan somewhere that a driveway is going to be crowned so the water doesn't go into our stormwater system, or it's gently sloped to the side, so some of the water at least goes off to the side instead of into the street. Okay? So if we remember, I don't think it says that in our bylaw, but if we remember, we say that to someone if it's not there. But it wouldn't be bad to have that in there. So all of these technical details, having regulations. Now, it is true, and then I'll stop talking. It is true that we are ceding some of the control to a public hearing and a regulation approval process from town meeting. I mean, let's be honest, that's true. On the other hand, do town meeting members want us to come to them with technical details every time we think a change might be required? I don't know that that's the case, that they want their town meetings taken up, and, you know, the zoning bylaw committee wants to have to conduct their sessions on reviewing all this, when in reality, most towns handle it through a regulation process separately. So we have a document here, and we have stripped out all the details, for lack of a better thing, and we have purpose and definitions and applicability, and we have the waiver and a bit about consultant fees and bonding and appeals and enforcement, and that's it. That just established, that's all in the current bylaw, and everything else, intent is to move it into a set of regulations. Having said all that, I think I spoke with Eileen earlier, and we agreed that you can't just approve a stripped-out version of the bylaw without having regulations in place, because then there'd be nothing in place. So Eileen suggested we should open a hearing for the regulations as well, so that they would be, I guess, approved simultaneously. No, they wouldn't necessarily simultaneously, but people can read it and see.
I think we talked about this before. It could be maybe in the backup material of the
Exactly.
town meeting.
Right.
So that they can see that this 3-page thing isn't all that's left. This is just the umbrella which is covering this, and we're not removing loads of stuff, and we're not putting in loads of stuff. It's here. We've got added some things in, like definitions and some tweaks, but it's generally broadly.
The idea is that what is currently in our Article 14, Section 6, our stormwater bylaw, is being split. The authority will remain in the bylaw, and all the details will end up showing up in regulations. And we're doing our best not to create a major issue with respect to putting new stuff in there or anything like that. That's not the intent, and in fact, we haven't really discussed anything with the commission in that regard.
Right.
Exactly.
So with that, that's my stop speaking speech.
I think it's also, one of the goals is to standardize the way we're doing it compared to other bylaws that we have. We have bylaws and regulations in other areas in the town, and this is the standard format, is to have separate regulations for each bylaw. So we want to standardize. And stressing again for town meeting that we're not trying to make any radical changes in anything right now. We're just administrative exercise of trying to separate these into two documents. And that any changes that are made to the regulations in the future would be done under public hearing.
Right. And just to pick up on what you said, Bill, we try not to propose anything radical anyway. I mean, we just don't do that.
But the other thing is,
Yes.
doing regulations, taking out something from bylaws would be much more flexibility to the
Yes.
citizens.
But back to one point that Larry made, there's going to be some comments in town meeting as to why you're doing this. It's because you want to make changes and you can do it without coming back to us, and, we might not approve of them. But that's not the intent, and we have to make that clear. And we're not going to do anything without public input. And if town meeting members want to attend our public hearings on what the regulations are, they're certainly welcome to do so.
Also, many of us, Indra, you've been on the commission a long time. I've been on the commission a long time. In that 25, 30-plus years history, the Conservation Commission, I think, has established, I believe, a reputation for being very collaborative with all the stakeholders. We take it very seriously. We take seriously that we don't want to overregulate things that cause unnecessary costs. We want to achieve the purposes and goals of the stormwater, which is protect properties around you and so forth from excess water from stormwater. So we have a long history that if the town meeting members have any doubt about it, they can go and reflect on the fact that we do have a habit of being very collaborative, a demonstrated history of it. All right, so Eileen, I didn't really talk about any details other than this is all like background. Would you like to comment?
I honestly, I don't really have anything to add, Larry. We've talked about this being something that we're approaching for quite a long time now, so everybody in the commission understands. Nobody is online, which I'm a little surprised at. I thought one or two people, interested parties, might be. Do you guys want to look at some of the things that are highlighted that we have maybe changed in this, that we do have some still questions? How do you guys want to approach this?
I think you should.
10 minutes.
I think you should, if you're willing to, review a few of the red things just to highlight these are additions. They're not much, but I mean,
Right.
you might as well state it for the record.
We certainly can. And there's a couple of comments in there where Bill mostly had made some good questions about things we should just consider as we're going along.
And I have a couple more that I've come up with today, so.
Oh, you more? Okay, well,
Why don't we do it by section?
right, well, in the very first, so purpose administration application, which is section 8, the purpose of the bylaw. A couple of things that are proposed to be added at the very end are prevention of erosion of stream channels. There was a question about whether that's already kind of covered under Part C, which is protect the natural resources and water bodies. It's kind of my feeling that it is already covered, but, being extra,
Redundant.
it's no harm. Redundancy is no harm. And then prevent overloading or clogging of municipal catch basins and storm drainage systems. I think that's another town used that. It's a perfectly good idea. I don't have an issue with that going in. Anybody else have any thoughts? But everything else was from our original bylaw.
Right. The prevent erosion of stream channels, it wasn't
Yes.
clear to me why just stream channels, I mean, a stream is a defined entity in our town, as streams
Right.
and rivers and things like that. Do you mean site stabilization is what we're trying to establish there? Is that what your comment intended, Larry?
My reaction, well, the way I was looking at it at the time was that we have things that are generally listed, protect the public health and protect natural resources. But then we also have things that are very specific, like prevent pollutants from entering or minimize into the stormwater system. Eliminate the adverse effect of soil erosion and sedimentation as a result of land disturbance. And then prevent contamination of downstream areas. Those were very specific purposes. And what I was trying to say is that one of the things that we actually focus on when we go out to a site is we're very conscious of either erosion happening after it's supposed to be stabilized or to prevent erosion if it hasn't been stabilized. And so that's what I was thinking of, that it goes
But not
along.
necessarily when a stream is involved, that's my point.
No,
If
no,
the stream, if
no.
the stream was close to a site, it would be a wetland permit anyway.
Right, so I don't think your intent was that this is related to sites with streams.
Right, I think
It's
he
just
meant
talking about site
downstream, right?
stabilization in general.
That's, yeah, you're right. I don't know the right words, but
Probably
you're
meant
absolutely
like
correct.
from the runoff, like from the velocity of runoff? Is that going into streams? Maybe that, is that?
No, you can
kind of
eliminate the
going?
word stream channels. It's not
Okay.
specific to stream channels.
Right,
It's,
it's
Right.
to everything, right,
it's
Right.
prevent erosion from the site,
right.
from stormwater causing erosion.
Wouldn't
Is that not covered in the
that go
previous
H?
ones?
Yeah.
I mean, if it now is like duplicative, then take it out.
Well,
Like I s
H says, as Lucy just pointed out, H is eliminate or reduce the adverse effects of soil erosion.
it probably is duplicative.
So-
Once you're worth, remove
So
the,
you're actually
And
saying
J is
prevent soil
related to-
erosion, and we're also saying, and prevent the effects, the downstream effects of it, which I guess we are doing both.
Yeah, because says that, minimize adverse impacts from stormwater runoff, so it may already be covered in what the intent of that was.
I think
I
it
think
is.
that particular one maybe, but I don't mind the prevent overloading.
No, I like that one.
Just in that it's very specific, but it's not exactly one we've addressed.
Right.
It is very specific.
Back to D.
Yep.
Mitigate effects of climate change, including flooding. Are there any other, should we just say mitigate effects of climate change where possible, or is there other climate change effects that would come under our purview besides flooding?
Well, heat island
islands?
effects,
Yeah,
because,
that's what I
because we could potentially be, so one of these permits could be allowing a lot of extra impervious surfaces.
Well, the thing
Trying to
is,
minimize something.
because we're at the headwaters of 3 major watersheds, therefore, we have a lot of small streams in town. Therefore, with a lot of water, they get overloaded and we get flooding. So we're always hearing about reports of flooding from people. I mean, I think it's a big issue, so,
Right, I think Bill was just, I think you were just saying, it didn't need to be called out specifically.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, climate change, to me, now you're saying, in a sense, the only thing about climate change we're interested in is flooding.
why don't we put heat islands in there? And heat
Well,
islands.
Could add heat
Okay.
islands, or just say effects of climate change, such as
I'm
flooding
fine
and
with
heat
that.
islands.
I'm just in, how do I say this? In terms of keeping the changes as minimal as possible for town meeting, I'm reluctant to put too much in right
Okay,
now.
yep,
Well,
yep.
you know, this was already there, I believe.
Right.
It's already there.
You know what I'm
Okay.
saying?
Yes,
Right?
yes. Okay, I agree.
So.
Well,
nobody
town
can
meeting,
have any
town meeting
objection
is
that
very
it's
much,
already there.
town meeting is very much, if we added the words and, for such as flooding and heat island, they're aware that we just did that heat island study. I think they're
No,
aware.
okay,
But I get your point, Eileen. The fewer changes we make, it more backs up our initial point of saying
That it's-
we're not making changes, we're
Right.
just splitting it. So, and this doesn't say only flooding, so.
No, it's just saying
Limited to
including.
flooding, it says including flooding, so it's
Right.
pretty general as written. All right,
Okay.
I withdraw that.
okay.
The other comment I had, which again, it would be a change to that, was C, where we're talking about protect all these things in municipal facilities. There's no mention of protecting residential property.
Did have a question about that.
And I don't think town meeting would object to including that
Well,
specifically.
Well, it
B
does
does
say-
say protect the public health,
say all-
safety, and
so I'll
welfare
back
of
to you.
residents. No, but I know you were making it
The top
specifically, not so much the residents, but their properties, right? Because C mentions residents, well, you're saying residents' properties, right?
Let me see, the natural resources, water bodies, environment. No, C doesn't mention that. I'm talking under A, the small c.
Small c.
Oh, no. Yeah, but don't, Bill, the one,
Natural
Section A,
resources.
small
sorry,
c.
I meant B. You were talking about changing something in C, but I'm saying that B, I'm sorry, I said C. B contains the thing about protect the public health, safety, and welfare. Berlin.
residents.
Is that not,
I don't know if that specifically includes their property under health.
No,
safety and welfare.
I'm not. I guess I was saying that you're trying to distinguish between the residents and the properties there, right?
Yes, not only their health, but also their
What
properties.
about municipal facilities of the town?
Municipal facilities and residential properties of the town.
All right, I think I'm okay with including that. I don't think
Yeah, I
that's,
think if you
that's
can
just a
add
clarification rather
distillation.
than an addition,
Right.
right?
Right.
Okay. And residential properties.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. And remember, this is going to be open, guys, so if you, and we'll come back to it again in the next meeting. We can have another 10 or 15 minutes. So
Yep.
if based on this, you go, oh, let me think about that now, we can come back to it. Properties, what have I missed? It's a T instead of a P. Do you want to just skip down so that we don't spend half the night
Yep.
on it, just to see if there's any other highlights? Okay, so we added in a few definitions just because they hadn't been there and they are referenced within this document. So mostly Larry and Bill included some definitions that we just didn't already have. So they're not new, as in they're not changing any,
They're used in the
Well,
document, and they were never given a
it was
definition.
simply
I
a
thought it might-
definition.
might-
There's no change to the intent of the bylaw.
Eileen,
Just
could we go
adding-
to big B under purpose, though?
Yeah.
Uh,
Under purpose?
Yeah,
One second.
and you see in red there, any powers granted to or duties
Oh, yeah, yep,
opposed upon,
yes.
eliminate the word either.
Either.
That on mine, I must have an older version.
Do you remember we had a conversation about this, because you had added a sentence and then I took it back out?
Oh, am I looking at an older version, you think?
Maybe.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
So I took your second sentence back out,
correct.
because it was kind of just repeating the first.
right, okay.
Um,
I'm okay with that, forget it.
okay. I was just hopping down to the ones that still have,
Okay.
somehow I didn't have.
I'll have to be sensitive to the fact that apparently I printed out an older version.
What I did was, it wasn't that I took out your edit, I just didn't accept your edit so that it wouldn't be too messy.
Right.
That's what happened. That's why it's not there.
Anything that said comment by LC you removed, is that what you're saying?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay, just checking.
Okay, so we added in the definition for erosion, just scrolling down. I think we added in the definition for pollutants, because that just wasn't there. Added in a definition for wetlands, just for rounding it all out. Even though we don't really address wetlands, it was referenced. Then, again, this was all basically in the bylaw anyway. Then we go down to regulations. Bill has a question here under Regulations A. Bill's question
Yeah,
was about.
I got a couple things in that section.
You do?
Under A,
Okay, well, let's talk about them.
the first one, which I just wrote down today,
Yep.
is under sub C there, requirements for design, construction, and ongoing maintenance of privately owned stormwater systems and facilities. Should that be town-owned as well? Would privately owned include town-owned stormwater systems and facilities?
Regulations adopted shall include but are not limited to requirements for the design, construction, and ongoing maintenance of privately owned. I guess we do, because if they hit the thresholds, town properties have to go through our permitting too,
Right.
right?
Then I don't think the word privately would include governmentally owned properties.
Okay,
So,
all right, so what again, I presume it's okay if we're just including something minor like this,
Yeah.
privately and municipally owned?
yes,
Is that what you just want to say?
yes.
Any objections from anybody else?
Nope.
So then the other comment that I had was on D, where we talk about requirement for use of low-impact development, utilization of green space, trees, and other native vegetated cover. I'm very much in favor of that, but I'm wondering if is utilization, is that the right word? Does that include protection of existing green spaces, trees? Or does utilization mean just only adding stuff?
I think it means protecting
Utilization.
existing.
So utilizing green
No.
space and trees, whether they're existing or not, would come under utilizing them.
Oh, let's see.
Utilizing is not a good word for that.
It sounds like, the way it's written, that you are asking for new things, for things that are additional to what's there already, right? The way it's worded? Requirements,
Yeah, I
requirements
would
for
definitely
additional
add
things,
something.
right?
Yeah, so
Well,
that shouldn't be at
It
this
does
point.
sound like that, so you're saying that doesn't address protection of existing, which it doesn't. Regulations are not limited, but are not limited to the following. Okay, use of low-impact development, utilization of green spec trees and other resources, utilization, well, how about, would it work for you if we just said utilization or enhancement of existing?
I'm hesitating now on the fact that utilization, I mean, if you're using, to me, using is a synonym for utilization. If
Yeah.
you're using green space, trees, and native vegetated cover,
Yeah.
that could be existing or
Could be
additional.
existing.
So I don't think.
It's just
that
saying
needs to be-
low-impact development, so if there's already, say, a grassy area there,
It should be used, yeah. Okay, I don't have a problem with leaving it the way it is. I just wanted to
Okay.
say that out loud.
will
It's what
I
it sounded like.
mark your comment as addressed, basically?
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll, like, remove the comment, I suppose? Oh, how do I
And
remove
that,
the
under
comment?
F,
I've forgotten how to do it. Never mind.
there's
It's okay.
an
I'm gonna
insert
see
of
if
new
this is-
text under F.
I'm sorry, I just want to
Yep.
make sure I'm saving this as a new version,
Okay, yeah.
so just so that we know that this is the working doc again, all right?
Saving things in versions properly.
Then tell me what it was, Bill.
Under F, implementation of soil erosion and sedimentation, I think it should be implementation and maintenance of soil erosion and sedimentation control
Stormwater
measures.
bylaw, sorry, 09,
26.
26, 24 meeting. Okay, I was just resaving it. So
So
all
it-
these comments are in one place, and then we'll do the,
Yep, yep.
one more time. F, you said.
F, it says implementation of soil erosion and sedimentation control measures. I think it should say implementation and maintenance, because we require them to do maintenance.
So this is an addition, this is
Yes,
an
it is.
addition, a proposed addition, should I say, by Larry. Are we okay with this going in, just in light of, we're trying to keep additions relatively minimal, and it doesn't mean we can't do any, I'm just making sure we're all on the same page with all the additions. Regulations shall include, but not limited to, implementation of soil erosion and sedimentation control measures, and your suggestion was,
Implementation and maintenance.
and maintenance.
We asked them to do it, and then we asked them to have maintenance plans for doing it as well.
Got maintain at the end of the sentence on the second page.
It does,
Process and are implemented
implementation
and
of those.
maintained.
There you go.
All right, but that does cover it there. Like-
No, wait a second, now it's reading funny, now that I'm reading it again. Implementation of erosion and sedimentation control measures and stormwater runoff control practices. Implementation are incorporated. That's something that's.
Yeah, I had changed the wording of that sentence too. This is what I have.
Okay.
Implementation and maintenance of soil erosion and sedimentation control measures and stormwater runoff control practices in site planning and design.
Yeah, that makes it more straightforward, doesn't it?
Yeah.
In site planning and design,
Period.
and then you remove the process and implement it.
Yeah,
because it's all covered.
you started by
A little bit-
implementation
a
is
little bit
implemented,
less
you know, so we don't
with-
need
With
that.
fewer words, which I like,
Yeah.
and design. Implementation, maintenance, soil erosion and sedimentation road processes, and stormwater runoff control practices in site planning and design. I think that's a reasonable, nobody could object to that, right? It kind
Right.
of, it's with the whole.
It's what we
spirit of the thing, right?
do for the stormwater.
All right, and then the next one that Larry had proposed was an addition of requirements for minimum construction and post-construction stormwater management standards and design criteria for the regulation. We're saying that the regulations shall include but are not limited to the following. Requirements for minimum construction. You probably got this from another town, right? So it worked wherever that was.
To me, it sounds like it's duplicative of B.
Yes,
I think you can eliminate it.
okay.
There's no reason to struggle with something that sounds the same, keep repeating the same thing.
Right, and any change is going to be
Especially if it's
questioned
an
at the
addition.
town meeting.
Right?
Correct.
We just need to be a little careful with those, I feel. Let me just, so the next everything was sort of standard as vague, more or less as written somewhere in the original bylaw. And then one little addition under enforcement violations and penalties was, so it says the Conservation Commission shall have the authority to enforce this bylaw, its regulations and permits issued thereunder by violation notices, administrative orders, with the addition of the word cease and desist order and civil and criminal court actions.
Order should be pluralized, since everything else in there is pluralized.
Right.
You have notices, orders.
I presume we
court
could do a
actions.
cease and desist for a stormwater type permit too. I know we do for wetland ones. Is that a standard thing?
Well, I mean, sometimes we don't call it that, and you
That's
just,
the effect.
but the effect is you tell them to stop work until this is resolved. And usually,
Should have
people
the
will do it.
authority to stop the work.
Yeah, but a cease and desist,
Seems
we
reasonable,
have issued in the past, historically, probably one, maybe two cease and desist orders.
Oh, my point was just, it was probably under wetlands, I'm thinking.
Yes. Yes, it was.
So-
And so, but I don't see any reason why it doesn't apply. If you need to
No,
cease work and you need to make it
Right.
formal,
until we can address something. I guess so. Okay.
I think it codifies it, something that we would do anyways.
Okay. If something is egregious, and obviously it would have to be
Right.
egregious to be a full cease and desist on a stormwater one,
Right, and if somebody
because it's not
says-
like you're in a wetland or something.
I mean, other forms of stopping work is you verbally tell them and they stop work.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not,
I mean, yeah, there could well be reasons to do so.
There could
And that was
be
it.
verbal cease and
Those are the ends of
Okay.
what, now, to be fair, there may have been places in there where Bill and Larry, John Keely and I worked on this initially, so were there places in there where we had added stuff in and we didn't make it, I don't think so. We were fairly good about making it all
right,
edited, right?
Yep.
right.
But I'll double check everything.
Okay,
So fairly minimal, right?
Andrea, so,
just a
Yes.
small clarification.
Yep.
Under regulation, page 3,
Page 3.
it said implementation of methods to control stormwater runoff.
Sorry, tell me where it is again, because I've lost you. Is it after the definitions or before the definitions? I don't
After
have it.
definitions, right?
After definitions?
Yeah.
And then you say which bit?
under regulations.
Under regulation.
Yes.
Part,
I'm here
which
now.
part?
And it's B.
B, yes.
You said implementation of methods to control stormwater runoff so that both rates and volume of runoff are reduced. Are reduced from where?
Are reduced from,
From the existing condition.
yes,
Yes.
yeah, from
So,
pre-construction.
so you have to add that, right?
You think so?
I don't know, it's just.
No,
if
it
you feel-
clarifies it, yep,
Yeah.
no problem with that.
Yeah,
Reduced
yeah.
Or reduced from pre-construction conditions or
Right.
eliminated?
Or eliminated, that's.
I don't think that's a big
And
problem. It's just
I-
clarification. Okay.
I have another. very
Wait a
small-
minute, is it, I mean, if we're going to get technical,
Yeah.
aren't we really, are we always, we want to reduce it, but we also will not exceed existing conditions? Isn't that the minimum standard?
It has to be, now you're making me question it, and how many
Yeah.
times have I read the bylaw? About a million.
I think it says not
You've
exceed.
been reading it
Not exceed,
recently.
yeah.
Yeah.
Not exceed.
I think it's not exceed, because
Right.
if it's,
It is, isn't it?
if you catch all of the new,
Then you're
that's
not
fine.
exceeding.
Then you're not.
Because the requirement isn't specifically you have to reduce it.
Yeah.
The requirement
Not
is,
exceed is-
it's not to exceed the existing condition.
This is what we had all along. Is this the problem? Well,
How about just rewording it like this?
okay,
Implementation of methods to control stormwater runoff so that pre-existing or pre-construction rates and volume of runoff are not exceeded.
that's probably fine, and I will write it down if we all agree. I just want to ask, so that wording is ultimately from the stormwater handbook, right? State regulations. I think so, not to exceed.
I think so.
So our bylaw can be stricter. We can say,
That it
Must
must
be
be
reduced.
reduced. Yeah, that's good.
that's my point. And
Work like
maybe,
that.
maybe when you all, Larry initially wrote this like 16, 18 years ago.
Yes.
Maybe that was the intent originally, was to make it a smidge stricter than state standards.
I don't object.
Well, an argument for, an argument,
We have issues though with,
I mean,
because we do talk about not to.
this has been in the bylaw right along.
Yeah, I know
So,
we always like it to be less, but technically, if they're going to refer us back to the state standards, well, the bylaw, we're allowed to have what we want.
Well, like Larry's just pointing out, this is existing bylaw now,
Yes,
so why would we make it less strict?
right. Why would we make it
Why
less
would
strict?
why would we go back?
Exactly.
I agree, Larry, now that you say that.
Yeah,
I mean, if we're proposing changes and,
the bylaw can be stricter,
you know, or we can,
and this is tiny.
I mean, we can
We're just
always
saying,
loosen
if
up the
it's not there,
language
it has to be there.
if we want to.
Cubic yard.
Yeah,
Yeah, this has been in there for years,
Okay, leave it.
okay,
since 2005 or something like
okay.
that.
But we'll leave, Indra's addition of the from pre-constructing additions, just because it's a clarification.
Yes.
Yep,
And my other very small comments.
Okay.
Definition of professional civil engineer.
yeah,
It says professional civil engineer means a person who has been duly registered as an engineer, registered as a civil engineer.
Ooh.
Yeah.
An engineer
and it was
is,
the current price. Really, did we miss the word civil at some point?
Apparently so.
Well, okay, I'll put it in, we'll double check that, because I know we took that from something. Because remember that became an issue in, a couple of years ago when we were making changes, one of the last times? Never mind.
Well, there's all kinds of professional engineers.
yes.
Right.
Because the way it is written now, any engineer is civil engineer. Any engineer registered in Massachusetts is a civil engineer.
Under
That's the
that
definition
definition.
here.
Okay.
Right,
But that's
yeah.
not right.
Thank you. That's good addition then, thank you. Those are two good catches, Andrew,
Yep.
thank you. So anybody else who notices those things that we just either make you raise your eyebrows or you're not happy with, just say it to us the next time.
Now for the biggest item
Oh,
of debate.
no, more.
Is it
I'm
right
sorry.
of ways or is it rights of way?
Oh, I think it's rights of way.
Right.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Oh, is it, do we say right of
Yeah,
ways?
Under the beginning, the capital C.
Where are we?
Capital C under the purpose.
Yeah,
Really?
right of
Well,
ways.
you Google it and just check.
I am double
I
checking,
think
but I believe it.
Bill and I are both saying rights of.
I like rights of way.
Yes,
Coles
I
does
looked it
that.
up. It is the preferred. Both are acceptable, but rights of way is preferred.
Attorneys general.
I still haven't found where it is. You said C?
C under purpose, the
C.
capital C.
C under purpose, C.
Just above.
Oh, capital C,
Yeah,
right of way. Oh, yeah.
right.
I'm gonna go with rights.
That's a good catch.
It irritated me the moment I read it.
Okay, there you go.
Okay, so,
Do you know how many times this has been through the general bylaw review committee and they tweaked every little thing and they didn't change that?
Well, we'll show now.
Both are correct.
Oh,
Yes.
I'm
well,
sorry,
listen,
everyone.
listen, Bill and I both prefer this. We're going
Well,
with
it's
this.
great, keep it, have it, you can do that, there's no problems.
okay. The record should show, the minutes of, that there is no one here who attended this hearing for the purposes of making any comment.
Okay.
Just curious, how many meetings do you keep the revision or so people can come and comment or?
Well, the deadline for the January town meeting is October, I'm going to say 28th, but I have it in the calendar somewhere. So we can absolutely keep it open until then, just in case there's anything, or until the meeting before, close it at that point.
What is the date we need to
I can
close?
double check it, but it's late October.
Late October.
Well, that's when it goes into town meeting. They're trying to have us make them as final as possible, but we could still tweak things. Don't tell Paul Sagarino I said this, but until the print deadline. But I would like us to all be on the same page before that, because this is a relatively simple bylaw. We're making it a simple bylaw. So I see no reason why we shouldn't be pretty happy with its structure by then, after we have a couple more meetings and you guys all.
Yeah, but we need to have the regulations, the draft
I would
regulations.
suggest, if you guys are open, that the next hearing, I'll put in a legal ad, and we make that a hearing as of the next meeting, and we can discuss that in tandem. And those are much more complicated in that they're longer, but they're basically a lot of what we already had. just shifted over,
Should
but
be
with
all-
some additions.
It should be almost all, unless there's a correction,
Right.
all of what we have in the current bylaw.
All of what we have, but you did
And
make.
nothing new.
You did make some additions, so we need to, I'll look again to see what version we're gonna, because we've talked about different things that we could or couldn't add, and they might not be what's
Yeah.
in the final.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, the problem is when you reread a long document, you say, this could be said better. And the tendency is like, okay,
Right.
type it out. All right,
Would everybody be open to that, us opening that
Sure.
hearing as well in tandem next time?
Yes, yes.
All right.
I also would point out that if it's ready, if
Yep.
everything is ready, then we can go for the January town meeting. But if it's not ready, then we postpone it until the following one.
That's true, we can, but
Maytown meeting is a beast.
yes, it is. You're
Financial
putting it in with
review.
absolutely everything, and the bylaw portion is relatively simple. We mostly want the regs as kind of backup material, so town meeting can see this isn't a bait and switch we're attempting to do here,
Right.
you know? But those regs are not necessarily final for town meeting.
Right, they can be draft, they can be
Correct.
with the current draft of a hearing that's been open since such and such a date.
Right.
Right,
And then, but just town meeting gets told at that time,
all right,
it's
Town
not, we're
meeting
not
is
going to
not voting on
suddenly
the
change it all of a sudden
Right.
after six
right.
six
We're just
hearings,
discussing.
you know?
Correct.
We're discussing it under a hearing format, and we're going to leave it open.
Yeah?
The is there like a
We can-
bylaw review? How do they fit in? Is there any?
Oh, shoot, yeah.
I don't know.
Right.
I'm
They
new
have
to it, so I
to-
don't really know.
They have to look at it too.
Does it have to go before them before it goes to town meeting? Or-
Yes.
Okay.
They get to vote on it.
Oh, okay. And then it's a recommend. Okay, I'm with you.
Yep.
Fair.
And they can
Well-
make corrections too.
Sure.
You know, if it's not formatted the way the town bylaws are
Okay.
formatted and this.
Okay, it really doesn't give them a lot of time to look at it, though, if we don't give it to them soon.
We can give it to them in the process. you
No,
know.
they don't want it then, I don't think they want it like that.
Well-
Those finalized?
I don't see us changing this drastically.
No.
I see us changing tweaks and wording and rights of way and things like that, probably. So would you guys be open to me, even at this point, sending it to general bylaw review and any of the others saying, this is our working document, we don't anticipate it to change drastically, but we're open to your comments?
I would give one more meeting, one more open meeting to see if somebody shows up, and then we review the comments that we had made tonight. And at that point, we say, this is what we think is going to be final. We've had 2 public hearings with no input.
Okay.
There you go.
That just leaves them with almost no time to come back to us with comments
Really?
before the
Oh,
deadline.
Jesus, that's right. Next week is October, isn't it?
Right, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if they'll
That's why I
take
was pushing it.
If they'll take it and review it now, I have no problems with that.
Okay, well, I'll do that. I'll send it out.
Maybe you can talk to them,
Yep.
and see what they say. Who is,
If we end up having to push it to May, we...
Who is the
push it to
chair
May,
of
but
the-
It is a bear of a meeting, you're right.
who is the chair of the bylaw?
General bylaw review at the moment. I'm not absolutely certain,
Okay.
because it's been a year or so since we had to go to them last.
All right. All right. All right, could I have a motion, continue the hearing on the proposed updates to Burlington General Bylaw, Article 14, Section 6?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. Okay. All right, so that was a fun discussion. All right. Okay, next, we have an enforcement order to ratify by a vote of 7A Street land disturbance near Vine Brook.
Okay, did I send the actual enforcement order out to everybody? Feel like I did?
I didn't see it.
Nope.
Let me pull it up right now, then.
Just kidding, I will unchair. I just have the,
Oh, yes, well, why don't you, I'll put up the enforcement order in a minute. Let me just give you the background. So I can't remember exactly how it happened, but in passing, I noticed that 7A Street, which is an undeveloped lot, had piles of soil in the past few weeks, piles of soil that it was disturbed, and it had been formerly like grassed and treed. And when I looked in through the gate, I could see piles of soil, disturbed soil. Bobcats have been on and off the property, and there were forms, like cement-type forms, or like stacks of wood being stored there. So I sent a violation letter, and I didn't initially hear back. So because this is in the inner riparian, and I wanted it to be addressed, I sent an enforcement order. I have since then gotten in touch with them, and in fact I visited with the new owners on site 2 days ago. Some of these photographs are from the gate, which is what I initially saw, and some of them are actually from the site. Yep. So we agreed to some conditions in terms of restoration. So what they agreed to do, which, oh no, that was an email. I honestly thought I had sent you guys an email.
You did.
Oh, I did, didn't I?
Pictures, yeah.
Oh, no, not that. It was 7A Street. Let me just see. Okay, so we did have a, all right, so we gone. We agreed on some immediate actions. What they were going to do is they had put a silt fence up against, very close to the stream, but the silt fence wasn't installed properly. It was just sitting there. Anything could have gone under it. So they agreed to, first of all, move the silt fence in to among the tree line and tow it in properly so that nothing's going to hit the stream. They were also going to temporarily relocate the concrete forms that you can see in some of the pictures at some point Lucy will show, and the wood supports closer to the street. These are their bulleted immediate actions. Elevate the concrete forms off the ground on 4x4 pieces of wood or similar so as not to take up flood storage.
Is all that wood being stored there?
They're concrete forms, yeah. And that's actually fairly close to the
stream.
40 feet or so, 50. And then they were also going to remove all the stockpiles from the site. You can see in the distance that there's some stockpiles of soil. One of them was sand that was actually apparently from a golf course. One or two of the piles was actually from the owner's son, the guy who's standing there. It was from his property. I guess he's doing some construction work. They thought it'd be okay to just bring that on the site temporarily because that was a convenient place to store it. I understand it was a convenient place to store it, but it just, unfortunately, it's also riverfront and flood 1% flood zone, and the inner part is also floodway. So they're moving all the stuff as far as possible away from the stream and raising all those forms up, at least temporarily, and putting in erosion controls. Those are their initial restoration, sorry, yes, those are their initial...
Remediation.
Remediation, exactly. That's a better word. And then over the next few weeks, they're going to complete an elevation survey of the property to determine the property elevations, make sure it's actually flood zone everywhere. And they're going to complete and submit a notice of intent which will include a restoration plan and proposed plan for more permanent storage of the concrete forms on the property. So basically, I've already sort of dealt with a lot of this initially. You will obviously see the notice of intent. I would appreciate it, though. I'll find the enforcement order in just a minute. If you would just vote to ratify the enforcement order after discussion, if you're happy with how things look and whether you have any, after you have input.
All right, does the commission have any questions? Anybody on the commission have questions about the situation?
How did you become aware of it?
I think I was just in the area.
She drives around town, she goes to the empty lots, and there's a gate, and she peers through the crack in the gate and spies on it.
Kind of.
Is that what happens?
Yes.
See, I told you.
I knew that the property was for sale maybe a year or so ago because I did have interest. I did have realtors and some people calling tell me about this area. So maybe that's what made me just glance at it one time going by a few weeks ago, and I noticed this activity.
What's going
I do
going
drive
in
by
there?
it. That's exactly basically what I did.
You're kind of like Sherlock Holmes of conservation.
I am.
Okay.
What's going in there?
Well, nothing is going in there. So,
is it?
It's, remember, that's the word you're not supposed to say to
That's right.
residents, at least. Sorry, it's hard, we're not really supposed to say to a resident that that lot is undevelopable because we could get sued. It would be very tricky to develop, let's just say that.
Difficult to develop.
If it's entirely
difficult.
flood zone, you're saying.
If it's entirely flood zone,
Oh,
it
and it's
would be.
riverfront, yeah.
And this gentleman just bought it.
Right, so he actually bought 7 and 9 and 11. There are existing buildings on 9 and 11. They will be running their businesses out of 9 and 11. 7 came with them, and it's a nice grassy, convenient spot, and why wouldn't I store things there?
Was there any alteration of vegetation, Eileen?
Yes.
Clearing?
Yeah, I'm going to say yes and no. The vegetation that I'm aware that was there was grass. It had been mowed and it was grass, so there's now no longer any grass. It's all churned up completely. But they didn't remove any trees except for one tree that had fallen and was leaning on a building. So nobody would have stopped them from removing that tree.
So they cleared all the vegetation, or there just was grass there anyway?
It was grass there anyway. At least in the past few years, they did not do the clearing. We do have, you were sharing some
It was, yes, but you were
pictures?
better.
I know, I was about to share the enforcement order. Lucy was sharing pictures that we had taken that does show that it was much more heavily treed some years ago. These guys didn't remove the trees, though. At some point in time, a lot of trees were removed. But it has been at least partly, if not largely, grass for some time. Okay?
Do you happen to know why he bought a piece of property like this?
The other two buildings,
The other two buildings,
Yeah.
really.
They came with the other two?
yeah.
Probably, I'm not sure whether it came as a package, but they were, he bought the 3 together.
At some point, yeah, all those trees.
Yeah, right, weren't there more trees?
Yep, sorry,
Oh.
I can also zoom it in on my end as well.
And here, I'll pop it on, I'll do this thing. This picture was from, what year was that?
2015.
So 8 years ago, 9 years ago, there were more trees on there. But that's not, they didn't do it. They did not remove the trees.
Do we
So
need,
they're willing to work with us.
do we need to have any of the area in the NRI period re-restored?
That's what they're working on. So those initial steps are just to, like, as you said, remediation is a good word. They're moving everything as far away as possible, lifting up anything that's being stored, lifting up like the forms that are being stored so they're off the floodplain, and they're removing the piles of soil off there completely. So those are just the interim measures, and they, yes, they will be,
Sorry, they will be filing as well.
they will be filing a notice of intent, which will include restoration.
Okay.
Whatever we all deem necessary at that point, we can discuss. But at least right now, they're moving everything out of the closest portion of the
Got it.
inner area.
All right, and anyone else in the commission like to comment on this? 7A Street, Burlington? Could I have a motion to ratify the enforcement order that has been issued for 7A Street in Burlington?
This is just.
So moved.
it's done.
Second?
Second.
All in favor? 600. Okay. All right, next on the agenda is 171, 175 Cambridge Street, filling of BVW.
Another enforcement.
Enforcement order.
Just wanted to give you an update on this one. So this is one that, it actually wasn't me that saw this one, Kent. It was actually Sarah. So she noticed something had happened, sort of right behind a commercial property lot, which had also been purchased as a lot of properties, like 171 to 170, 169 to 175, some batch like that of properties last year. And the new owner noticed that, you know, the parking lot is pretty wet out there, and oh, look, it drains to this area that's also pretty wet. Let's fill it up with stone to help with the drainage. The stones were in or very close to wetland. We issued an enforcement order there as well, which you did ratify. We asked for a restoration plan, asked them to survey it and provide a restoration plan. But I just heard, the update I got today, I think I did forward that one on, I'm sorry if I didn't forward both, is from Maureen Harold in Norse. You've met her loads of times. She's saying he would really prefer not to do a surveyed plan, but can they just, would we be satisfied if they just took out the stones by hand and just simply reseeded? So It's up to you. That would be fine. I mean, we had asked for more of a, like a formal plan and to actually map it, but, I mean, I suppose the question
Well,
is,
could you explain to the commission, what is the purpose of the stone there now? Why is the stone put in, and is it actually needed?
it was his method of trying to address the drainage. A lot of water was coming off the parking lot. There was no, like, formal drainage on the parking lot. There's been no real improvements to that site for several decades. So everything was going off the roofs, across the parking lot, into this low-lying area, which was very wet, very muddy. He just thought this would be a good way to address the...
Is it actually an improvement? The stone is doing some kind of filtration of the water?
I'm going to
improved
say
filtration?
yes and no. He's also put up a fence, which I'm not terribly concerned about. It's not in the wet, well, it's at the edge of the parking lot. So in a way, that's the no part, in that the stone is no longer just hiding in unsightly mud, but it actually is somewhat filtering the mud from getting in, the runoff from getting into the wetland. But he may be filling wetlands, which you can't have him do unless he's going to replicate. So if he's not going to, or if he's, I mean, this is for you to decide. If you're okay with him not doing a formal, like, surveyed plan and, more formal replication and possibly leaving some of the stone, then he might as well just take it out.
Well, here's the thing.
Let it go back natural.
Did he fill wetlands
Probably.
With stone?
with stone? So, I mean, can you,
Well,
would you, as the administrator, be satisfied with removing stone out of the wetlands, and does it need to be replanted, or is there just so much water, a lot of times it just revegetates?
it will reveg. There's a lot of fairly invasive species in there now. There's a lot of Phragmites and a lot of Japanese knotweed. So whatever they seed it with, I mean, we might as well go ahead and seed it, but the invasives are probably going to take over. So the question is just, I wouldn't let him leave the stone there unless we had a more formal plan, a delineated plan, because so that you know exactly what is or isn't being filled. I would say if you're willing, but this is certainly a perfectly acceptable option. Just remove everything out of what's probably wetland and let it be done with it. Let it just revegetate.
And what does that do to the drainage on the site?
Well, nothing. The water will still run off from the parking lot, but it'll be behind the fence, so you won't see it.
We've got erosion.
So why did he fill it to begin with, if he couldn't see it?
No, he just put in the fence.
He just put in the fence?
Yeah, fairly recently, yeah.
So none of the stone is on the inside of the fence?
Let me share the pictures that Maureen sent today. Is that okay?
Sure. It's hard to tell where this is.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Big stone.
Right. She also sent this, so maybe this will make it clearer for you. Let me find something that makes it clearer.
I mean, can you tell where the wetland line is?
Not really. I've been out there. Oh, darn. She initially did some flagging, but she only flagged the vegetation. And actually, John Keeley was out with me at one point, and we weren't happy with that because we felt that we hadn't looked at what was underneath the stone. So when I was out with her again, we did move some stones, and that was definitely wetland right under the stones. So I said, just go back to the original plan and delineate the wetland, but they really would prefer not to go to the expense of another surveyed plan for this, which I understand, because he could just take the stone out and leave it at that, to be honest.
Well, here's the thing.
Yes.
Can Maureen guide him on how far back to pull the stone so it's clearly not in the wetlands?
I would say either take it all out or make him do a surveyed plan, because he's definitely filling wetlands, and I don't want to be the one, he has a wetland scientist.
Well, that's what I mean. Can she say, you'll be out of the wetlands if you remove it to here? And is there any benefit to leaving half the stone?
Then wouldn't he be paying for a delineation in order for her to make that assessment?
Well, he must have paid her something,
Yeah.
but it was supposed to be for a plan as well. And he doesn't really want to pay for a whole surveyed plan, which is
Okay.
much more expensive than just putting the flags up, right?
I would agree with Larry. If the stones could be removed from what is most likely the wetland boundary,
It might be all the way up to the fence.
it might be. But I mean, if it's feasible and makes sense to do it that way, that would be acceptable. To me, I'd look at it as a stone trench next to a driveway. I mean, the runoff is being captured by the stone and getting some kind of treatment before it goes elsewhere.
I don't disagree with you.
Yeah, if that can be done.
I just don't want stones in the wetland.
Reasonably, without having to have a formal plan. If it can't be, then take it all out.
So basically, can she identify a line? So you would be okay with having the stones in the no disturb under the circumstances, in that they are performing a function? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But not in the wetland?
Right, it should not remain in the wetland. If she can determine up to a certain point, here's where the wetland starts, remove it from that point forward.
A point, or a line, basically. Sorry, what?
So can we just remove all of it?
Otherwise, you got erosion.
And then
Well,
reseed the rest.
that's what they're,
Yeah.
but they're saying that they don't fully agree with that. If
You're saying if half of it basically is considered wetlands, basically
Well,
reseed that.
a lot of it up
mix.
to the fence, a lot of it up to the fence is wetland. It may not be all, but I think.
Are there
we'll-
stones on the other side, on both sides of the fence, or only, no, it's only on the
Only
fence?
on
Did the guy put in a fence in wetlands?
no, it's right at the edge of the parking lot.
Because she says, because Maureen Held said, this property does not have wetlands on the property. She says.
It is all parking lot right up to it. So, I mean, there could be wetlands under the parking lot, but there's no way for us to say.
Right.
So it's parking lot right up to the edge, right? Oh, you haven't been there, sorry.
Yep.
So the fence is coming, parking lot's coming out to the fence, plan that way.
Yes,
So why is there stone there?
All the riprap's on the other side.
yes,
Why touch it?
because it's wetland.
Because it's in wetlands.
Leave it as is.
Yeah, why did he bother, is what you're saying, right? If this doesn't affect the parking lot and up to the fence.
If he fenced it off and it doesn't
He may-
affect the
he
parking
may
lot,
have- He may have put the stone in before the fence. I'm not sure what order they went in.
it's not clear what use it is keeping the stone there.
And he's happy to take it out. He's just hoping that if he just takes it out, then we can just leave it at that.
Don't you think it might disturb more to
He
take
would
out?
be taking it out by hand. He wouldn't be, he would not be using machinery.
It sounds like if he put in a fence on his property line, and there's no wetlands, according to the scientist, and there's no stone on the
No,
inside,
it's not the property line, it's the edge of the parking lot.
Edge
It
of-
is his property. He didn't put stone on somebody else's property. It is his property. Let's find an aerial view, because although it won't have the fence on it.
if the water goes into that area, he's not even going to see it because he put up a fence. So what
This is more complicated than I thought.
Yeah.
I don't see what the purpose was of doing it.
Of doing which?
What was his purpose?
Of removing it or putting it into
He's not here to discuss it, so we don't know. Can't ask him.
Just take it out.
Yeah, just take it out.
So we can go aerial?
You sure? Just take it out and kind of let it go in that
That was,
it'll just restore itself, which it will, largely.
eventually.
That's fine, it's the easiest fix.
Sorry?
It's the easiest fix, and
Trying to
Yep.
distinguish
You know, it
the
is-
gentleman's intent, and he's not here, is impossible.
I thought he was actually going to be here.
He was planning on being
She said he
here,
was going to be in the
and he is
meeting.
not.
That
Yeah.
would have been better, because you could have asked him about intent and everything, which I can't speak to.
you say he's willing to remove it.
Yes.
So remove it.
Case
Okay.
closed.
Okay, that's fine. We'll just agree that, to go with that.
Because at this point, we're guessing why he did it, and We don't see a valid,
Well, it kind of doesn't matter why he did it. The point is,
he filled
it
wetlands.
doesn't matter why he did it. The point is, he did, and he filled wetlands.
Right, okay.
Okay.
All right. So do we have to do anything to ratify anything?
It's been ratified.
The enforcement order was ratified. I think you could, I don't think you need to do anything when we're just talking about updating something like an enforcement order. I think it'll be reflected in the minutes, and
Okay,
feel free to make a vote if you want to, if it makes you feel better, though. It's not going to be any harm. But I think we're good to go. I will just update them to say that is an acceptable,
we already ratified it, right?
yes, yep.
So I don't think I'll sleep any better if I
By voting
by
again?
re-ratifying it.
I think we're good.
Okay.
Okay, all right, let's move along. Planning board comments? Is there anything for the planning board?
I don't think we
Not that I
do.
can
No,
remember.
nope.
Subcommittee, staff reports, updates?
We did that. With the stormwater, technically.
Oh, this is other things.
Oh, sure.
No, but I do have a quick thing, another business, if we're okay with that.
Yep.
Oh, unless somebody else wanted to jump in.
Okay, we'll go with you, then we'll go to town meeting.
Right?
Bill will give us some
It was just a
comments.
quick update. 5 Creston Road, this was the property, they wanted to do a tear down and a rebuild, but the new build would, their proposal, they needed a variance from the Board of Appeals because they wanted to put their new property 5 feet from the property line, which is adjacent to Littlesbrook Conservation Area, so 5 feet from our property line. And they were going through the Board of Appeals. Board of Appeals asked them a couple of times to show the hardship. And eventually, I guess 2 weeks ago, they ended up withdrawing the application because there's some kind of a time limit with Board of Appeals. So they would have to withdraw the application, and then when they're ready, they can resubmit it again, showing whatever hardship they're going to show. But I just wanted to let you guys know that that is what had happened. And I did sort of take the liberty of telling the applicant's representative that there is no guarantee that with a new filing that the conservation would be willing to compromise on the setback, because it would be a new filing, okay? It will be up to you guys, but I did not want to make that in any way an assumption,
Okay,
okay?
that's fine.
But I'll let you know if it comes back up again.
Great, thank you.
That was it. That's my only update.
All right, under other business, Bill Boyman, our resident town meeting member on the commission.
We have two. Sarah?
Sarah's not yellow, right? And
Rob probably knows at home.
would you want to, are you a town meeting member?
No, but it's away.
Wait.
Oh, your wife. Would you like to update us on anything of interest from your
Yeah,
perspective?
there's a couple items that did have some relation to conservation. One is the funding for the Fox Hill School was approved, so that project will move forward, and they would plan to come in front of us for a formal, NOI in early 2026. One interesting note on that, which I hadn't been aware of, is the plans as approved and now funded do not include solar panels on the roof. They're going to be set up for plug and play. They're all wired and ready to go, but it would be a separate funding project to put solar panels on the roof. But they did say if they put solar panels on the roof, there would be a payback of 8 years. So it may come up very soon for another separate funding to add requests for funds to put solar panels on the roof. And they said if they could put solar panels on the roof and parking lot canopies, then the building would be completely net zero. So, but it would cost money up front to save money in the future, and it depends on how town meeting feels about that, but that'll be a separate issue. There was a brief presentation on the high school. There's no firm plans on that yet. They're just starting the process of the high school. I'm going to start paying attention to that one now that the Fox Hill School is closed. One thing, as somebody said, they're still debating whether to renovate or build a completely new building. I said, where the heck are you going to put a completely new building? And they said, on the parking lot. So, but then I don't know how that would work out. as an interim plan with all the parking. There'll be no other place to put cars. So it's obviously going to come in front of us because it's completely probably built on wetlands as it is. There was another article about changing the use of the pump station on Middlesex Turnpike, and they're going to turn that into a temporary police station, occupying it in May or June, and while they completely renovate the existing police station, not all functions will be moved there. Shooting range and holding cells will not be coming with them. Those will be borrowing or sharing space with neighboring communities. He said we do that all the time. We're currently housing some prisoners for another community now. So after they're done with that, the question came up, what are you going to do with it? And they said, Paul Sagarino said that there's plans to turn it into office space, perhaps to use on a temporary basis during high school construction, that they can put administrative or BCAT or the elementary school, or, I mean, the preschool or something. There's a bunch of functions going on at the high school that would be affected by renovation. So that may become temporary for that. This one drew a rousing reaction from the crowd when Paul Sagarino said maybe after that it might be converted to pickleball courts. And there's no neighbors to complain about the noise except for the wildlife. But then he said, it would also was pointed out that right now, of course, it's obviously surrounded by wetlands and floodplain, and in the new FEMA maps, the entire lot will be under floodplain. So that will affect what can be done. I did manage to have a conversation with Brian White, the DPW director, and I said, what's going on with the dog pound site and our promised wetland viewing station there, wetland viewing platform, or station. And he said the dog pound is almost ready to use, but the construction capabilities of the town are now focused on the fuel tanks going in next door here behind the fire station, and that's going to take some more time, and they don't plan to get to actually working on constructing the wildlife viewing station until the end of 2025 or early 2026. So that's the status of that project.
Okay.
And the only other thing was somewhat of a wonky talk about remote participation in meetings. Currently as structured will expire in March of 25, and there'll have to be new state guidelines and everything else on all of those type of things as the format of how we are set up. And that's going to greatly affect town meeting and any other town meetings who, commissions and boards that do that. And there's some commissions and boards that don't meet in this room that have difficulty doing that because they're meeting in other areas. So if they're mandated, it's going to require some changes and some funding perhaps and whatever. It was a bit of a discussion. So that's what I have from town meeting, and it's not over yet. Town meeting, there's 24 items. The first night we covered 7, and the second night we covered 3. One of which the conclusion was, let's bring it up again in January. So it was awful. Awful.
So what does that mean next Monday, Monday?
We're back Monday to do numbers 12 to 24, if we can get them in Monday.
There was a 90-minute discussion on that first one about allowing some amount of hybrid for town meeting. 90 minutes.
Yeah.
Before anybody even moved to vote.
Is there one about the town clerk? Like they're basically converting it to not a...
Yeah, that already happened on Monday.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That happened on the first one. That was,
Oh, okay.
The vote was, the decision of the actual warrant article was, right now she is an elected official, the position is elected, and it was to put it on the ballot to change it to appointed. And there's pluses and minuses that were discussed at great length, as everything else was. And a very quick summary is that if you have an elected official, it must be from a Burlington resident. And Amy said herself, she's been unable to find anybody qualified to do the job. And if you know what Amy and what she does, you don't want to put somebody in there who's not qualified. By having it appointed, then they can take applicants from other communities who have served in a similar or a backup role, et cetera. So,
I think everybody in town hall is kind of going, oh my God, Amy's retiring, oh no.
When is she retiring?
Well, she said in the meeting sometime between March and May, didn't she?
yes, like
spring
March to
next
May, and then Paul said, well, we might do something like keep her on part-time as a John Keely type thing.
Is she okay with it?
I don't know. She didn't come out, that didn't come out of her mouth. That came out of Paul Severino's, so I don't know about that. So,
All right, so other business, anything else under other business? I have one item. Anybody want to say anything?
oh, I'm sorry, I did have one more thing.
Go ahead.
I did have one more thing related to the police station move. I got an email today, I'll send it out. I just literally got it before I came here, from a town meeting member from Precinct 2, I think it is, Jeremy Harrington. I don't put a face on his name. He's on the Zoning Board of Appeals. But he said, I want to point out to the Conservation Commission regarding the temporary police relocation to Vine Brook. You may have this on your radar, and I pass this along just in case. In my work life, I do a lot of warehouses and delivery locations. Something that comes up from conservation commissions around the country is oil water separators in climates that have snow. And he said, this is because in the winter, vehicles on the road in bad weather and/or post-snow build up compacted slush and snow in wheel wells and on the undercarriage. In this compacted mess is a lot of debris, oils, chemical melts, and random other chemicals, and it melts and is released under the parking vehicles in a high concentration in a parking lot. So having a oil-water separation solution mitigates the leaching of this mix into the environment.
He meant at Vine Brook?
He meant at the police station, temporary police station, the
Right,
pump station.
but at Vine Brook, right, got it.
Yeah,
That might be a very valid comment.
because there's going to be a lot more cars there. They're going to use it for all the police vehicles.
I don't
and
know what's
the-
there, but we can find out.
Yeah, so the drainage system there hopefully has got something to do that already, but if not, he brought that up.
Perhaps you can update us at some point?
Christine Mathis or somebody will know. Various people will know if it's already there. Okay.
Yeah,
Yep.
I thought that was pretty cool that he brought up.
All right,
That up.
the item I have is that Bill Boyven is a guest writer for Burlington Buzz. And he put out an article that was really good about the nature and value of trees and what they do for us in the environment and for us as a community. It was exceptionally well-written, and so I'd like to encourage anyone who hasn't seen it, go to the Burlington Buzz and look up Bill's article, and I think you'll enjoy reading it.
Thank you. I enjoyed writing it.
Well done. It's
All right.
very nice, very clear as well.
It is. It gave a perspective on the value of trees to our community that isn't often that well articulated.
There's an old adage that I like that says, you never learn something as well as you do when you have to teach it to somebody. So trying to write this article, I learned some stuff. Just the sheer mass of trees astounded me, that a redwood tree can be, how many tons was it? Let me find it here. A redwood tree can be, let's start this way. An elephant weighs 3 tons, dinosaurs were 65 tons, and blue whales may be 150 tons. But a California redwood can weigh 5,000 tons. Wow. And they don't hunt animals, and they don't suck up plankton, and they don't eat mounds of grass. They just sit there and grow, standing in one place for 2,000 years.
Transpiring oxygen at night,
Yeah,
right?
breathing good stuff into the air, sucking up stuff out of the ground, and just get to that immense size. It's just truly amazing.
All right, so if you haven't read the article, it's very much worth reading. As soon as it came out, I read it, and I said, wow, this is good.
I will read Bill's column. I read a lot of them are interesting. That I will definitely read down. But just on the high school, I know it's not part of the town meeting, but I think that will be an interesting project with the high school just because that's designed, versus Fox, I know there's some, which I'm not going to get into that, but the high school, because it was really designed for 2,000 students, and the fact that labs in there, ECAT, the administrative, that's going to be an interesting project because of that, so the sizing, but then also
Right.
where they're going to locate it. And like to your point, with the guy that came in, was the private wetlands? Like,
Oh, yeah, the
that's
wetlands
gonna-
on
yeah.
that site, and
Yeah,
he was
that's
complaining
gonna be-
about the care.
Yeah, so that'll be an interesting if they decide to relocate the new school where the parking lot is, how that will impact conservation and the existing site, how that's going to be come into play.
You know, unfortunately, Burlington has done a very good job of taking care of some of their school buildings. I mean, like, the high school it's a really odd-shaped arrangement, obviously, with the ramps everywhere and things. It's not, and it doesn't look necessarily modern, but it doesn't, I mean, it just sort of looks different.
It's solid.
It's different, it's solid. And when someone looks at a building like that, I mean, sure, the labs do need to be updated. You know, we need much better science labs, and maybe the HVAC needs to be updated. But when you look at the building, I'm sure some of the town meeting members are going to say, this building is very, very solid. Maybe not as functional as a modern-day building, but I mean, it really isn't dilapidated at all.
And the cost of a new one is going to be 3 or 4 times the elementary school. They're talking $300 to $400 million.
Right, right. We'll see how town meeting comes down on it, anyway.
I think they're going to be wildly in favor of it, but the funding is going to be the issue, because it would involve a debt override and a tax increase.
I mean, I am supposing they're going to do it in phases. I don't know what they'll do.
Yeah, the planning process is underway. The Danisco company is doing it. They're the ones who did the elementary school. I think they did a tremendous job at the elementary school. I was talking to Donna Danisco at the meeting, and I congratulated her for when they first came up with, town meeting approved $1.5 million for a feasibility study. I said, just for a feasibility study, but the level of detail and the level of work that was put in by that company was tremendous, and they're involved in the high school as well.
What was the name of the company that did it?
Danisco Engineering or
Really?
Architects or something.
Yeah, it was very impressive, all the
Yeah.
stuff.
I
they
have heard from one of the guys from TAPE, who was also, I think, working on, weren't they, Fox Hill?
Yes, yes.
They have delineated a lot of wetlands and streams over at the high school, so we will probably be getting an ANRAD for that at some point.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
Before they do any,
We did at the elementary school.
well, that's what I suggested to them, and I think they probably already had it on their radar to do that, so that we can all be in agreement as to the resources and their limitations. Because it's going to be kind of a tricky site, there's a lot of wetlands out there.
It's got to be the entire site.
Yeah.
Except the football field, because that's already filled in.
There's a
We'll see.
possibility that they're going to be requesting some filling in and replication, because you've kind of got fingers of wetlands, the way it was built.
Yeah, if there's space for replication, yeah.
What about the track? Like, I know the front, Mayor Simon didn't get approved, but the back, it's the grass.
Wait, what didn't get approved?
No, is that gonna have any impact, like, on wetlands, is like around that? Because the track portion, they didn't, that was, I think, moved to like next year's count or vote.
You mean renovating what's there?
Yeah,
The
back
football
part.
field and the surrounding
Yeah, the back
circle?
part, yeah, that's grass now that they're gonna renovate, is there any impact on?
Oh, I think that's the, you thinking about the middle school?
Yeah,
Yeah,
sorry,
the middle school.
Yeah, the back part. is
That has
there
been,
gonna be
that's a
any-
separate issue,
You
yeah.
think there'll be a
That
new
is-
life for, like, when they do
That,
that?
Oh, yeah,
you're
they're-
right, that's
yeah.
wet there too.
Okay.
We were just talking about the high school.
That would clearly.
They would
complicate.
probably, I don't know what the plan is for that, but they would probably be going through you guys. If
Yeah, it seems
they're
right.
working on something where it's kind of wet back there.
They decided to do it in pieces. They're doing the front football field first and then try to do the back field
Oh, this is the
second.
part that got included in town meeting in May, right? The additional part? Oh, right,
Yeah.
right.
I think they're doing the grass piece, it's the grass piece, right? They got approved, and then it's the front track is gonna get replaced at a later date.
Well,
The back piece definitely.
money got approved.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But you're right, there definitely will be probably an NOI, I would assume.
Yeah.
Probably, but I haven't seen the plans. But anyway,
All right, in the interest of adjourning this meeting before 9 PM,
let's do it.
could I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor? 600. Have a good evening, everyone.